Welcome back. I'm always looking for ways to save time in the kitchen, and last week I thought I was smart when I bought a jar of pre-minced garlic. It's not that I really mind cutting and peeling garlic, but I do use it just about daily, so having the option sounded nice. Until I tasted it. Initially, I thought it must have gone bad, but when I started searching online, I found people saying theirs tasted like rotten feet. Now, there are only a few things I get particular about in my kitchen. I want my knives sharp, my onions fully caramelized, and I want my garlic to taste like garlic. I don't think that's too much to ask for. Speaking of asking for things, since I'm about to save future you a lot of time, it sure would be nice if you liked the video and subscribe for more homemade food. The plan today is to peel and prep 12 garlic bulbs in a way that lets us grab a teaspoon of minced garlic at any time without it tasting like rotten feet. And since I bought a garlic braid for this, I thought it might be fun to try some of the internet's viral garlic peeling methods. And yes, I know that a garlic press exists, and that at least a few of you have already commented below that I could use one. While they're great for crushing 1 or 2 cloves for a recipe, I don't think it's practical to press 12 garlic bulbs back to back unless your garlic press is the size of a lemon juicer. If you're not interested in seeing me screw around peeling garlic, use the chapters to skip to the parts you do want to see. For everyone else, let's get started with the bowl method. Supposedly you can put garlic into a bowl, put another bowl on top, and shake it really hard to remove the peel. I found people doing this with separated cloves, and some doing it with whole bulbs, so I'll try both. I looked through my whole house, and I couldn't find 2 bowls that fit well enough together to violently shake, so I used a metal bowl with a tight-fitting lid. I then proceeded to give myself a heart attack as the garlic rang the bowl like a goddamn gong. A smarter person would have held on to the bottom of the bowl to dampen the sound, but you're stuck with me, so there you go. Shaking the whole bulb of garlic, to my absolute shock, actually did break things up a little and pull some of the peels off. It took way more energy than just doing it by hand, and it scared the crap out of me, but it did technically work, I guess. Since the first attempt did more than nothing, I decided to break up the cloves into individuals, then shake it for another 10 seconds, and again, I am left surprised. On a positive side, the peels that are left mostly slide right off, and if you grab cloves out of the bowl one at a time and finish peeling them by hand, you could contain a lot of the skins and mess and save some cleanup. If you've got a tight-fitting lid, it might also be a good way to keep kids busy while you're trying to cook. Here, Timmy, shake the garlic for dinner. I don't know. Now let's talk about the many downsides. First off, it took way more energy than just peeling them by hand, and while you don't have a cutting board to clean up, you've still got a bowl, and 2 if you did this right. And thinking about it, you still need a cutting board if you wanted to mince the garlic anyway, so you've just made more dishes for yourself. Also, I wouldn't recommend this at all for breaking up garlic bulbs, even if it did kind of work. Sometimes you'll find a moldy clove that's just kind of rotted away, and usually there's some leftover powdery mold spores left behind. I actually found a couple cloves matching that description while processing this garlic. I don't think it'd be good to shake that up, aerate it, and then open the bowl and breathe in all the spores. And finally, it didn't really work. While the garlic was easier to peel after being shaken, I still had to peel it by hand, which I feel defeats the purpose. Let's move on to the next one. Out of all the supposedly viral garlic peeling hacks that I found, this is the one I hope no one actually uses in their day-to-day. According to the internet, and we're already off to a very bad start there, you can microwave a bowl of garlic, and as it heats up, the escaping steam will push the skins off and either completely peel the cloves or loosen them up enough to make them extremely easy to peel. Something's going to happen, but it's not going to be moving the camera for a 15-second microwave shot. And I'm back. The garlic screamed in the microwave. So after 10 to 15 seconds on high, steam escaped, they let out a screaming noise, and they're ruined. The peels might be slightly more loose, but there's a film of warm, sticky garlic liquid between the skin and the peel that was created by the steam escaping. Because of this, I would actually say it's harder to peel them now, and it's become impossible to do so without making a mess. The texture of the cloves changed dramatically. They're like a fresh gummy bear in a gross kind of a rubbery way. I've never experienced garlic with this texture before, and I never want to again. Words fail me. Don't do this. Alright, next up on the list of how to ruin your garlic, how to peel your garlic. How bad can the next one really be? Add boiling water to a bowl of garlic cloves and somehow magically this peels them? Remember when we shook garlic in a bowl and it kinda worked? I'm starting to miss that. After burning myself off camera with the microwave garlic last time, I tried to snag the cloves with a pair of pliers. I don't know why I kept this in, or why I'm telling you. I just wanted to show you how I got frustrated, gave up, and burned myself anyway. I let them sit for 5 minutes in the boiling water, and it did basically nothing. The outside of the cloves are a little slimy, but the texture is unchanged. They're no easier or harder to peel than they were before the boiling water bath, and I feel that I've just wasted my time. The last method isn't really a viral method, it's just the right way to do it. Or at least one of the right ways. Place the garlic clove, peel and all, onto the cutting board. Then with the side of your knife, crush the clove. You should be able to separate the peel from the clove fairly easily, but you may want to trim the root end off before crushing. That's up to you. This is my go-to for putting a whole clove of garlic in a dish in a situation where I want the garlic flavor, but I don't really want tiny pieces of minced garlic in the food. It's also a great way to prepare garlic if you're basting meat in butter in a pan. You can just crush a clove or two and throw them in. Garlic contains two enzymes, which I'm probably going to say wrong, called allinase and allin. Crushing the cell walls and allowing them to combine creates something called allicin. Allicin is the sulfurous compound that gives garlic its signature taste. So crushing your garlic, then letting it sit for 10 to 15 minutes before you add it to your dish can greatly enhance the amount of garlic flavor that it adds. A downside of this method is that garlic juice will get on your knife, fingers, and cutting board. While this is no problem for one meal, I don't really want to imagine how sticky everything would be by the end of processing a dozen bulbs of garlic that way. So I'm going to show you how I peel garlic. But first, let's talk about breaking apart the bulbs. And I know some people struggle with this since there are a bunch of viral hacks for this too. You don't need to boil them, you don't need to freeze them, and you don't need to slam them with your fist, even if it is fun sometimes. All you need to do is hold the bulb with the stem facing upward between your thumbs, then squeeze and rotate your hands in opposite directions. The first few times that you do this, you'll remove the papery outer skin. Once you've got past most of that, use the same motion to break a few cloves off. They're attached at the root end and sometimes stuck together at the side, so try and pull from the top and sides of the clove until some snap off. Take care for moldy or rotten cloves while you're doing this. You'll sometimes come across them, and the first thing that you'll notice is that they'll be mostly hollow. If you press on a clove and it feels like it's completely hollow, just throw it out. The rest of the bulb is probably fine. Now that we have our cloves separated, this is how I peel garlic. Trim a little tiny piece off of the tip, then turn the garlic around and slice almost all the way through the root end. Once my knife is almost touching the cutting board, I lift the garlic clove with my left hand straight up into the air. This removes the nasty bit at the root end, and it almost always rips a large enough chunk of skin off to give you a good starting point to finish peeling. Because both ends are cut off, the skin hasn't got much to hold on to and is very easy to remove. This method leaves garlic cloves intact in case you want to slice or mince them for a decorative reason, but usually if I'm cooking, this is where I'll put peeled garlic into a garlic press. I know some people swear that you can put unpeeled garlic into a press, then remove the peel from the chamber, but I've always got bits of garlic skin in my food that way, so I don't do it. Another good thing about this method is that it can scale well. Depending on the shape of your garlic and how it comes apart, you can usually get away with cutting off 4 or 5 cloves root ends at a time. Just be careful not to slip and cut yourself. If you've got this much garlic and you don't mind a bit of cleanup, I have one last method for peeling garlic. If you slice the tip and the root end off, then roll it between your palms, it almost always comes out fully peeled. But there are some obvious downsides here. Firstly, the mess. I shouldn't have to say this, but rolling garlic between your hands will send garlic skin flying in all directions. And since it's so light and papery, it does tend to blow around very easily, spreading the mess further. I've already accepted that I'm making a huge mess, because I'll be the one who cleans it up. but your mileage may vary. It took me about 20 minutes to peel all of the remaining garlic this way. I didn't rush, and I could have done it faster if I needed to, but about 2 minutes per head of garlic isn't too bad. Now that it's all peeled and the root ends removed, I'm adding the garlic to a blender cup. I used all of the experimental peeling method garlic, except for the microwaved one. The texture was even weirder and rubberier after it had sat for a little while, and I didn't want it to ruin the rest of the garlic, so I threw it out. Don't microwave your garlic. Next up, you want to pulse the garlic until it inevitably gets stuck in some part of the blender and it can't be chopped up any further. When this happens, add about a tablespoon of oil and repeat. Give it a shake after each oil addition and keep going until you've got just enough oil for it to come together into a paste. You want to use the least amount of oil that you can, but no matter what, it's still going to be way less than there was in the jar that I bought. Any neutral oil or fat should be fine, just as long as it's a liquid at room temperature. Take care not to add too much oil. If you added enough oil at this point, you'd basically just start making aioli instead. Once the garlic is chopped into the consistency of your liking, we're going to spoon it out onto a sheet pan, but I find it's a lot easier to work with if you spatula it into a bowl first. When I cook with garlic, there's never a time that I add less than a tablespoon, so I'm scooping about 1 tablespoon blobs onto the sheet pan. The size doesn't really matter though. If you cook with less garlic, make your portions smaller. What does matter is that you keep them relatively even sized and scoop them out so they're not touching each other. Once you've run out of garlic, or space, throw the pan in the freezer at least overnight. Once they're all frozen, separate them from the pan and try to work fairly quickly. As these start to defrost, the garlic and oil can get a little sticky. I store mine in a container in the freezer, and when I want to add garlic to a dish, it's as easy as just grabbing a garlic chunk. Just don't mistake them for raw cookie dough when you're up getting a midnight snack. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more homemade food. See you next time.